Hey, everybody. This is the Let's Talk podcast, hosted by Ira Warren, a facilitator and coach with Vistage Worldwide. In each episode, Ira shares with you over 40 years of successful business leadership and his driving passion to enhance the lives of CEOs throughout Long Island using the Vistage Peer Advisory model. Here's this week's show.
This week, I'm honored to have RJ Warren of Personalized Moments Incorporated as my guest. Over the past 10 years, RJ has built a hand-stamping jewelry business from the ground up, taking a part-time hobby and turning it into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. Welcome to Let's Talk, RJ.
Thanks for having me, Ira.
You know, your story is really interesting, and it's a testament to hard work. As we all know, overnight success is never overnight. So take us back. Tell us how it all started.
Well, at the time, I was working overnights for Tropicana, driving a forklift, and we just had our first child about 6 months before that. So we were trying to figure out a way to make a little extra money, and most importantly, I was trying to figure out a way how to see my daughter, because my wife had another day job, and I didn't really see my daughter till the weekends. So there was a need to try to find something else. I had asked around to a couple of friends if they knew anything that I could do to try to make some extra money, and my sister actually turned me on to Etsy and told me to take a look at the website and see if there was anything that we could find that we could do. So I came across some pet tags that I felt were hand stamped, and I said, I've used a hammer before. This is something I think I can try. Let's give it a shot. And I went on Amazon. I bought a hammer, a couple of stamp sets, and a book on how to stamp. I borrowed a piece of metal from Tropicana and a disc cutter and stamped our disc and cut our first disc, and that's how it started. The goal really was just to do a couple tags a week to get some extra money, and every week we got busier and busier, and it just kept leading to new avenues.
That's awesome. What was it like when you reached the point where you said, okay, do I give up my day job and really focus and commit to the business?
It was pretty scary. We had just bought a house 6 months before I made that decision. So it wasn't something that my wife was very eager for me to do. But at that point, we had gotten the business high enough to that I was making the same money that I was making at Tropicana. So it wasn't that difficult of a decision where we were going to be completely worried about financially. We were going to lose what we were saving, obviously, and have to now utilize every dollar to pay the bills. But I felt that if I had grown the business this much, doing it part-time with a little bit of help, that imagine what would happen if I applied every minute I had to it. And since then, it's been, quite successful.
That is great. It's, I think for all entrepreneurs, there's always the obstacles and the hardships and the mistakes and the failures that we overcome and learn from. Tell me what all that was like for you.
Well, as far as the mistakes, that was a lot of product trials, buying different things, testing them out, throwing them up to market, seeing if the customers liked them. The good news about having a website is we get instant feedback. So the customers would kind of let me know whether it was working or not. That was the early struggles of trying to find product development and not really knowing what was going to work and what wasn't yet. But I'd say the biggest challenge probably came during COVID, just like many businesses. We had just moved into a larger warehouse. And literally 2 weeks after we move in, the state says, okay, you're closed. And then staff quit. And at the same time, the online boom happened and the shop got busier than we've ever seen. So it was a little difficult to find the right people to manage getting the orders done, with some people still working from home, not having enough staff, and a lot of the juggling. But we were able to survive, and trying to keep your head cool. It was very stressful at the same time, but honestly, thanks to Vistage and the group, it was a lot easier because you weren't really doing it by yourself. So
got it. It's I was just thinking about how you began with hand stamping, where you literally are taking individual letters and a hammer and making all this great jewelry that you do. You know, it's funny, there's a few people who know that I worked my way through college in a trophy wholesale store in the Bronx. And at first, you know, it was setting up type in a machine and machine engraving. I started out with the little plates that are at the bottom of a trophy. And then, you know, worked my way up. By the time I graduated college, I was the chief engraver of plaques, you know, in recognition of your years of service, on and on and on. But what was interesting to me is that as I was exiting and leaving college to go on, they started coming out with what looked like a typewriter that actually would type those same plates. And then, you know, the plaques were being done by photo engraving. How has your technology changed since you started in hand stamping, and how you've expanded from there?
Well, the interesting thing was a lot of the technology was actually already in place when we started the hand stamping. It's gotten a lot further and become a lot cheaper, but one of the reasons why the hand stamping had worked was it was a niche Etsy had just kind of rolled out, and a lot of people were trying to gear their business towards companies that were smaller, mom and pop shops, and more importantly, handmade in the United States. So that's why we kind of stuck with the hand stamped. As Etsy has evolved into a bigger corporation, the clientele has changed, and that priority is less existent now. So now it is more important that we're utilizing the technology. So to answer your question in full, everything's more digitized now. They've come out with rotary engravers. They've come out with laser engravers that can mark. They've come out with engravers that can now, they're called fibers, where they're literally cutting the metal. But the nice part about them is they're all digitized. We can make vectors. We can make different designs very quickly. And it's sped up the process tremendously.
Let's take a break, and we'll be back in a few moments to continue talking to RJ.
Vistage is where leaders learn and grow. We help CEOs and business owners grow their business through executive coaching and peer advisory groups. Ready to succeed at a whole new level? Learn more at irawarren.com.
It seems like you have a couple of similar and yet related different product lines that make up Personalized Moments Inc. What are those different product lines that you've gotten into from the very beginning of hand stamping?
So the very first product that we made, and I had mentioned a little bit earlier in the conversation, was pet tags. Even the pet tags have evolved. When we first started, we made them on silver, copper, bronze, hand stamped every single letter individually. We still offer that. We have gone to pet tags that are also laser engraved and marked, where we're able to offer more information, get them out a little bit faster, offer them a little cheaper. Besides that, I would say that our next product line that's the biggest and has gained the most success is engraved cups. With COVID, schools having to change how they're handling things going forward, we've started to sell a lot of personalized water bottles for children. And just, I think more people are carrying water bottles around with work to have less contact and so forth. So that's a market that's picked up tremendously.
That's great. As you are a current Vistage member, how's the group helped you grow your business and deal with the challenges that come with being a CEO and business owner?
It's helped me in a number of ways. To start, it's like I had mentioned a little bit before, is I don't feel like I'm doing it alone anymore. As I was growing and I wasn't sure where to go, I didn't have anybody to ask. So I was always in my head a little bit about whether I should pull the trigger on something. The group has really helped solidify that decision-making process so that I feel less afraid. I'm more willing to go for the things that I want to go for and that the ideas are on point. The second part is the overall concept of just being able to run your business, helping me understand how important culture is inside the business, sharing their ideas and marketing strategies and what's working. And then just the overall knowledge of business in the room has been tremendous. So.
Yeah. Right now, your main sales and distribution is primarily through e-commerce and primarily through Etsy. What's your vision for what it's going to be in the future?
Well, we're still going to consistently stay with e-commerce. We like the platform. It's where I think all sales are going in the future. As we can see, a lot of the shops are closing, retail stores and so forth. We're primarily selling on Etsy and Amazon currently. We are right now in the initiative to further our own website. It's to combine our 4 brands and attempt to start to do some national marketing on our own to really go after this and to try to really grow the business to a level that we weren't expecting it.
It's such a great story. But as we're coming to the end of our time today, I wanted to ask you, what are the biggest lessons you've learned while growing your company? And do you have any advice for new CEOs trying to navigate today's business world?
The first thing I learned is to constantly be innovating. The business market shifts rapidly, and if you're not, constantly trying to figure out what's next and where to take the business, you see too many of them fail. So that's one of the things that we have as a priority around here, is to constantly be innovating, constantly finding new products, new machines, whatever we can get our hands on to try to stay ahead of the curve. The second most important thing I think most CEOs fail at is trying to do too much on their own. I've really learned a lot, like I said, about culture from Vistage, and finding the right people and keeping a really happy workplace, which allows the staff to take a lot off my plate so I can focus on what's important, and that is growing the business and making sure that we're here for a very long time to come.
That's great. There's an old African proverb that states, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And I think you're a living example of what going together with a board of peers could be. All I can say is it's a pleasure speaking with you today and sharing your experience with our listeners. Where can we find out more about Personalized Moments?
You can visit us at mypersonalizedmoments.com.
Terrific. Well, again, thanks so much for being here, and a pleasure chatting with you, a pleasure having you in the Vistage Group and watching you grow and learn as your business flourishes.
Well, thank you, Ira, and thank you all that you've done for me as well.
Thanks for listening to Let's Talk Podcast with your host, Ira Warren. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. If you're interested in joining more than 23,000 members across the globe that count on their Vistage Peer Advisory Group to help them make better decisions, be better leaders, and get better results, then let's talk. As always, you can head over to irawarren.com to sign up to our email list, get more information on joining my Vistage Peer Advisory Group, as well as check out all the links and resources in the show notes. That's all for this episode, folks. See you next time.